Hello Targ, our friends. Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and once again it's time for another Orc Mode workout. Today was max effort lower day. Quick reminder, reach down and hit like down below, guys. We just hit the goal. We got a 600 on the Cambered bar. I was not going to do this today, but I was going to do 590, try to go up 5 pounds, and 535 felt light. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to go for it. It was a true max. I got it. By the way, if some of you are wondering why you got banned, if you said silly stuff like, if I was a judge, I would red light that because you're spreading misinformation. We don't allow misinformation. It is against the rules for a front judge to red light for depth. So you're lying, you're spreading bad information, and you got to go. You guys will notice, that the real powerlifters and coaches and referees who have chimed in anywhere have generally said depth was questionable on it, but it was a strong lift. You just need to work on that a little more, and I agree. That's what we'll do. I'm not going to try to PR on this for a while. I got to my 600. I'm going to work on the safety bar squat. I'm going to work on programming off this 600 for anything I do with this, and I'm going to work on trying to get it deeper. We're going to try to keep getting 600 deeper. I'm happy with this lift for a bit. I have other priorities. I feel like the safety bar brings a lot to the table for me. I need to get it up. Deadlift needs to take a higher priority. But damn, I was happy with that lift. And yeah, it was heavy. It was heavy. You can see I'm a little excited there at the end. So we'll work on sorting that. But as far as me actually getting the weight pretty dang close to parallel, and I already know where parallel is. I've already measured all my stuff from the side, and I already know what my front depth looks like. And I know that was 1 to 2 inches above parallel. I already know that. So, and I know when I hit depth or not. So I don't need people's criticism. I don't need their critiques. They're irrelevant because I already have measurements for it and you guys don't. So just be happy for me. Now, that being said, we'll work on getting deeper with the 600 now. Not that hard. The depth is not my sticking point on a squat, by the way. And sometimes that bar is a little tricky to reach depth, and that's okay. We'll fix it. We'll work on it. And then after we get there good, we'll work that bar up. Deadlifts. I went ahead and went up to a 555. I want to start doing the deficit deadlift now. I ran the change out till I failed, and I wanted to start conservative. I already have people who are like, oh, why is it down so much? Well, it's down a little. It's not down that much. This wasn't a true max. I just hit a big squat PR. Okay. I was very fatigued. Got a sticking point in my deadlift. And this is me setting a training masters program off of. We will increase this. I'm going to do this every week. I'm going to go to a training max in this. I'm going to slowly bring it up. I'm going to program off of that for my rep work, off the percentages, off of whatever I'm currently at. And we'll take it on up. And I'm also probably going to, I think, alternate now with rack pulls, like below the knee down at my sticking point. We know where my sticking point is. So that's what we'll work off of. So I'll alternate those two back and forth so that I get the harder work off the deficit, the longer range of motion. Then I decided, you know what? It just crushes me when I use that Cambered bar for reps right now, because of when I work on percentages, it just crushes me and I don't feel any more quad. I know my safety bar needs to come up. I know that if my quads get stronger, even that Cambered bar is going to go up. My posterior chain is still getting other work. I'm not as worried about using that bar to blow my posterior chain up further. It's just harder for me to recover from. The safety squat bar has probably contributed tremendously to me building that. Keeping in mind, how often do I do the safety bar? Like 50% or more of my squatting in recent phases. If you go back and look, over half of my squatting has been done with the safety bar going into that PR. It carries over, and it's my weakest bar. So now I want to push the safety bar up, right? We want to get some big PRs on this safety bar. We hit 511. We broke the 500, got the 511. Let's work on getting this bar up to 550. Okay, and we're going to work on getting depth with the Cambered. That's going to be my game plan. This will also probably carry over to my deadlift better. So we need to work deadlift too. So safety bar squat, deadlifts. Deadlifts are going to be a little bit higher priority now. I'd already said, you know, they're somewhat of a priority. I need to get that squat up. I knocked down that squat number. Now we're going to work the deadlift up. Deadlift has got some sticking points. I need to hypertrophy all the muscles involved, and I need to get some joint angle specific stuff. We'll fix that. Just like, you know, we just got that 600 squat. We fix the weak links. We get bigger, get stronger, and take it from there. I went ahead and did 80% of that training max. I only did one set. I realized, man, I am toasted. This is way too much heavy work on my back for the day. I needed to back off a bit. So I did one good set of deadlifts. One good set of 5 at 80% of that training max. That will give me a training response, especially after the other work. It felt good, felt nice and challenging. But I'm gonna reel it in for that, and I'm gonna work a little bit more on good mornings today. I'm gonna focus on working on good mornings. It'll help the deadlift. We're doing a little bit of deadlifting, but you know, when we first hit the 615, how did that happen? We did a lot of good mornings, a lot of speed pulls, all that stuff. Well, actually, I wasn't even doing speed pulls when I did the 615. Okay, I originally broke my 615 back in January. That's how we got there. Well, we know my quads and everything are stronger. So we've got to build that middle and upper back. We need to get the hamstrings. Hamstrings, definitely. All right? Got to work these things. So I decided to do my stiff leg. And this is, again, there's a slight bend in the knee. It's not a power good morning like I do. It's a narrow stance with a stiffer leg. And this weight was challenging. 15 reps with this stance was hard with this bar. But that's the beauty of this. Right now, this particular stance and bar is super challenging, and it hits the muscles I know I need to work on a bit more for my deadlift as the squatting doesn't hit. So we'll do a lot of this to hypertrophy the muscles of the deadlift, just like the glute ham raise, right? Just like we're doing that because we know we need hamstring. This was hard on my glutes and hips and everything even today, because in upper quad, that got hammered hard off the squatting. And even then, I mean, those are pretty much limit sets for me based on percentages, because I just ran those safety bar squats off of my last PR, which was, again, I put 20 pounds on that squat in 2 weeks, because I went 491, 501, 511 lifetime PR with that bar. Okay, I'm programming off that. Those were hard sets. So we're getting just enough good volume of the heavy work in to get a training response. Doesn't have to be maximum. If we're getting a training response, that's enough to grow off of, gaining muscle, gaining strength. And we'll come in and do the slightly easier to recover from work, because again, this stuff's getting heavy, and I'm going to have certain days, like you guys have seen other days, where I've gone all out and I'm hitting limit sets on squatting and deadlifting, multiple sets of both. Right, but now we're going to work in more good mornings. I'm going to have to pay a little bit more attention to that total fatigue. Right, we need to keep it kind of optimal volumes as far as managing that, and then we bridge the gap with the other lifts, the good mornings, the glute ham raises, the reverse hypers. We'll bridge the gap there. So we're also doing the heaviest squatting we've been doing even on the rep work. Okay, that will carry over. So on the deadlifts, it's only going to be maybe 2 sets. Some days it'll be 1 set. Okay, and that's fine, because if we do 2 maxes on a deadlift every week, and then we do, you know, on average 3 work sets through the week, that's a decent amount of heavy pulling. It really is. But we're doing all this other supplemental work, particularly the squatting and everything. So it's just the way I'll have to manage it. But those were challenging. They were good. I felt them right where I wanted to feel them, and those were basically all I had for those 2 sets. And I could tell they actually hit my hamstrings decently hard, because when I went to do these glute ham raises, my first 2 sets of 13, which is currently my best, is three sets of 13 using a 10-pound plate. So the first 2 sets of 13 were challenging, and then I hit failure on the 3rd set around rep 8. Okay, I hit failure. And again, it's all I had. Not that I could do more. I got to the bottom and I just couldn't come back up. Hamstrings were lit. Hips were lit from all this. Right? So I push those things as hard as they're going to go, because I had to rest pause the last rep or two on those good mornings. So with as far as that particular movement, that weight, those were limit sets. And this is all after hitting that big squat PR and then doing some challenging squat volume. So, but my hamstrings, they felt it. Because some of these, I've done these after not doing good mornings, and that's where I got up to this current strength level. So when I'm ramping up those good mornings a bit and we're getting extra hamstring work, I'm going a little bit fatigued. So that's what I noticed today. I was able to get the first 2 sets complete, but the final set, the work capacity just dropped. So I had to go massage my hamstrings for a bit after that and then come do my reverse hypers. But again, a lot of work being done. A lot of hamstring work. Felt a lot of hip because of, again, those squats. Those safety bar squats seem to hit a lot of hip and a lot of quad for me. Right? I don't feel as much of the posterior chain itself, like glutes and stuff, or hamstrings that I feel like on other movements, and definitely not as much glute or lower back. I don't get as much glute or lower back as I do with that camber bar. That's why I'm so strong at that thing. Look at what my reverse hypers and glute bridges and stuff are. So it seems to really hammer, obviously, upper back, but I feel a lot of actual hip. And when I say hip, I mean the abductors. I actually feel the abductors on that a lot. I feel them on the glute ham raise also. So those areas were really lit up. And this third set, when I reached failure, like my hips, hamstrings, everything they were shot. Obviously the hamstrings just couldn't fire, but the hips were getting fatigued too. So again, all muscles that we need to bring up. And I know that over time, these glute ham raises will help bring that deadlift back up. Good mornings, the glute ham raises, reverse hypers, all the rowing and stuff I'm doing. So again, we're doing those in a way that's easier to recover from, and I think that's a factor. That's one reason I was probably able to come in and PR today, because that bar uses a lot of low back. Okay, I'm not doing normal rows as of this week now, or at least the back half of the week. Everything is chest supported in some way. So we're letting the lower back rest going into these lower days, and that's going to let me really hammer the deadlift harder. And that's the beauty of it. You know, people can say, well, Jason, you know, shouldn't you be doing standing press all of a sudden? They build more muscle. It's like, no, not if you're squatting and deadlifting. That's something people have to remember with that too. If you're squatting and pulling heavy with a large amount of volume, and even good mornings, you really think you're building core and posterior chain on those standing upper body lifts? Not really. There's not enough weight. But they put fatigue on it. So one of the things I'm doing with that is I'm going to cut those out for a while so that I can really hammer all of this on the lower days and get the most performance out of all of it. I went up 50 pounds. This is basically with the plates I have. I'm at the edges. I had to use a different clamp. You notice they're all the way to the edge. I went up to 610. I got my 3 sets of 20. Now, I could tell it was a little more challenging. Like these were a little harder, so I could feel that weight difference. But again, we've got to push that bleeding edge. So if this is all the weight, unless I can acquire more calibrated plates to squeeze on there, if that's all the weight we can do, and we're almost at the limit of this machine, it's rated to 700 pounds. Assuming you can find the plates to even get it there. You have to have calibrated steel plates to even get 700 on it. You can't do it with normal cast iron plates. It's not big enough. They're rating it to 700. I've got 610. All right, we got 3 sets of 20. Well, the only way really from here is for me to try to add reps. That would be our only progression on it. But we've got to push this. We've got to push the limits on it. It will help the deadlift. Again, look at where my strength is on this reverse hyper. That's one reason I'm strong with that cambered bar. A lot of guys are like, man, I'm way weaker on it. That bar is hard. It's not hard for me because I've built my glutes and low back up. And this exercise has been a big, big key to it. So really, we have different weak links in the squat. So I'm so strong on that bar, we know those muscles are not limiting my squat. We know it's quads. We know it's T-spine. The T-spine is coming along really well. But I'm really, really happy with today's workout. I'm happy with that PR. We're going to keep it rolling. Slight adjustments as we go. So I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.